Alright, let's dive deep and craft this first chapter with full human nuance, reflective thoughts, and natural flow for a YouTube audience. Here's Chapter 1, Intro and Trailer Breakdown for Mufasa, the Lion King. The first thing I want to say about Mufasa, the Lion King, is how immediately it pulls you back into that world, the African savannah, but through an entirely fresh lens. The trailer alone is this careful, meticulous piece of storytelling. It doesn't just tease, it breathes life into a world we thought we already knew. Watching it, I found myself caught between nostalgia and curiosity. There's this moment, right at the beginning, where the camera sweeps over the sunrise, golden light spilling across the plains, and it's almost impossible not to feel the grandeur of it. You feel like you're not just watching a movie, you're standing there, hearing the wind, smelling the dry earth, feeling the weight of the land itself. And in just those first few seconds, it becomes clear that this isn't going to be a mere retelling or another CGI showcase. It's aiming for something more intimate, more emotional. The sound design in the trailer is worth a whole discussion. There's this low rumble under the opening scenes, almost like a heartbeat of the savannah itself, and then Hans Zimmer-esque motifs begin to creep in. Not the exact scores we've heard before, but enough to trigger those memories we have of the original Lion King and all the emotions tied to it. What I found fascinating is how carefully the music ebbs and flows with Mufasa's presence in the trailer. He doesn't just enter a scene, he arrives, and it's underscored in a way that makes you feel the weight of his character, the gravitas he carries as both a king and a father. Even without a word of dialogue, you know he's central, and you know the story is going to orbit around his journey and his relationships. Speaking of dialogue, the trailer drops just enough hints without giving anything away. There's a brief moment where Mufasa speaks to a younger lion, presumably his own cub, though they don't explicitly say it. And the way he talks, it's not just paternal, it's philosophical. It's like you're hearing the foundation of a legacy being laid in real time. The lines are simple, but they carry weight, almost like proverbs. And you can tell the filmmakers are deliberately pacing these lines to make you absorb them, to make you reflect. That's not something every trailer can accomplish. It takes confidence in your story, in your audience's emotional memory, and in the power of your characters. Visually, the trailer is spectacular, but not in the look at this shiny animation way. It's cinematic in a way that feels lived in. The textures of the lion's fur, the subtle way the dust clings to the savanna grasses, the tiny interactions between animals in the background. All of it contributes to this incredibly layered world. And the way the camera moves is striking. There are sweeping, epic wide shots that capture the enormity of the Pride Lands, but then it zooms in on Mufasa's eyes, on the tension in his jaw, the slight tilt of his ears. It's a reminder that this story, while epic in scope, is deeply personal. I have to pause for a second and appreciate the pacing of the trailer itself. There's this slow build, almost meditative, that suddenly bursts into more intense action moments. A stampede, a chase sequence, and glimpses of what feels like political intrigue among the lions, though it's just a hint. It's enough to make your pulse quicken, but never enough to overshadow the quieter, more reflective beats. And that balance is critical because it suggests that the film itself will balance spectacle and story, which is not an easy line to walk. Too often, we see films in this genre go heavy on spectacle and light on narrative depth. But the trailer suggests this isn't the case here. The trailer also makes subtle choices in how it introduces the antagonistic presence. You never see the villain fully in frame at first. There's just a shadow, a low growl, a shifting of the terrain that hints at danger. That's smart because it lets your imagination fill in the gaps. You start thinking about stakes, about betrayal, about the pressures of legacy and leadership. And it's particularly striking given the film's focus on Mufasa. His story is usually secondary to Simba's in our collective memory. But here, he's front and center. And the trailer does a wonderful job of framing him as both heroic and vulnerable. One other thing that caught my attention in the trailer is how it teases relationships beyond the immediate family. You get glimpses of other prides, other characters who look like they might challenge or support Mufasa in different ways. It's subtle world building, almost unconscious in its execution. But it suggests that this film won't just be a character study. It's going to explore the politics, the social structures, and the ecosystem of the Pride Lands in a way we haven't seen before. It makes you feel like the world has depth, that every corner of it matters. And then there's the emotional undertone. Even in these first moments, there's a palpable sense of loss, of stakes, of what it means to be a ruler in a world that's as beautiful as it is unforgiving. You feel like the film is going to explore themes of responsibility, of courage, and of what it means to protect something larger than yourself. There's a universal quality to it that reminds you why The Lion King has endured as a story for decades. But at the same time, there's a freshness here. The trailer makes it clear this isn't just nostalgia, it's an entirely new exploration of a familiar legend. And let's talk about the visuals one more time because they are worthy of a deep dive. The animators didn't just aim for realism, they aimed for presence. Every whisker, every ripple of muscle under the fur, every glint in Mufasa's eyes is crafted to convey emotion and intelligence. It's almost uncanny in the best way, creating a lion who feels alive, who feels sentient in a way that resonates emotionally. You start to project onto him, to feel his worries, his pride, his love, even without a full backstory yet. And that's the power of careful character design combined with cinematic storytelling. There's also a quiet brilliance in how the trailer handles the environment itself. The Pride Lands feel alive. Watering holes, cliffs, tall grasses swaying in the wind. It's not just a backdrop, it's part of the narrative. You can see how the filmmakers might use these landscapes not just for beauty, but for storytelling. Every shadow, every light beam, every movement in the background tells you something about the life of this world. And when you pair that with the score, with the dialogue, with the focus on Mufasa, it's a holistic introduction to the story. And I can't ignore the subtle nods to the original film. There are flashes, brief and respectful, that remind you of the lineage of storytelling we're inheriting, but they never feel forced. It's a balancing act between homage and originality, and just from the trailer, it seems like the filmmakers are acutely aware of the weight of that responsibility. It's as if they're saying, "We know you love the old story, but we're giving you something you've never seen before, something that stands on its own." By the end of the trailer, I was left with this lingering thought. This isn't just a prequel or a side story. It feels like a deep dive into the psyche of a character we thought we understood, a chance to see the world through Mufasa's eyes, and to understand the choices, the sacrifices, and the burdens of being a king before Simba ever comes into the picture. And that, to me, is the most exciting thing about this movie. It promises insight, emotion, and spectacle all at once, without relying solely on nostalgia. Alright, from the very first scenes of Mufasa, the Lion King, you're immersed in a Pride Lands that feels both familiar and startlingly new. We open with the golden savanna stretching endlessly beneath a morning sun that seems almost hyper-real, the kind of light that makes every blade of grass glimmer, every dust particle in the air visible, almost tangible. The narrative begins before Mufasa is the king we know from the original Lion King, during a period of transition, where the young lion is learning not only about leadership, but also about the responsibilities of legacy. These early sequences are almost meditative. They show Mufasa interacting with his father, Ahadi, in ways that reveal his upbringing and the careful guidance he receives about the weight of the crown. This is not just an action-driven prequel. It is a film that takes the time to build emotional architecture, and you can feel that investment in each frame. Mufasa's father, Ahadi, is portrayed with this deep gravitas that immediately communicates the lineage of kingship, and you can see Mufasa grappling with expectations. There's a conversation early on that feels deceptively simple. Ahadi doesn't lecture, he poses questions, philosophical questions about what it means to be a leader, about the balance of fear and respect, love and authority. Young Mufasa listens intently, and even in these early moments, you sense the seeds of his character, confident, brave, yet reflective. The filmmakers take care to show that Mufasa's path to greatness is not just about physical dominance, but about moral and emotional intelligence. As the story unfolds, we see Mufasa beginning to assert himself among the other lions in the Pride. There's tension here, naturally, because leadership in the Pride Lands is not just inherited, it's earned, and even a prince must demonstrate wisdom, strength, and compassion. The trailer hinted at this, but the film expands upon it beautifully. Mufasa faces challenges not only from rivals outside his family, but from within the Pride itself. You watch as he negotiates conflicts, mediates disputes among younger lions, and navigates the politics that come with potential kingship. Every decision he makes is layered with consequence, and you see early hints of the protective, authoritative presence he will later embody as Simba's father. The supporting characters in these sequences are critical. For example, there is a female lion, Sarabi, whose interactions with Mufasa are subtle, but loaded with tension and mutual respect. Their connection is built not on overt romance initially, but on understanding, shared responsibility, and unspoken acknowledgement of each other's potential. This is a narrative choice that sets the film apart. It's not a rush into love or melodrama. It's character-driven development that feels earned and natural. By the time the audience begins to perceive the hints of affection between Mufasa and Sarabi, it feels organic, almost inevitable, rather than manufactured. One of the most striking sequences in the first act is a training montage, but it's not your typical montage with dramatic music and fast cuts. Instead, it's deliberate, paced, almost ceremonial. Mufasa is guided through hunting strategies, patrol routines, and territorial negotiations. Each scenario designed to challenge not just his physical abilities, but his judgment and ethics. It's in these moments that the film demonstrates a commitment to realism and psychological depth. We are shown a lion growing into a leader, not in a vacuum, but in a living, breathing ecosystem where every action reverberates, affecting prey, fellow lions, and even neighboring prides. Meanwhile, the narrative layers in subtle foreshadowing of the conflicts that will later define Simba's story. There are glimpses of Scar, not yet the scheming villain we know, but a young lion whose ambitions and envy simmer beneath the surface. Scar's presence is understated at first, marked by sharp glances, quiet observations, and the occasional subversive remark. The filmmakers wisely avoid overplaying him too early, because the tension is more compelling when the audience senses potential danger, rather than being confronted with overt antagonism. You begin to anticipate the eventual clashes between the brothers, understanding that these dynamics are going to have deep roots in the formative years we are witnessing now. Nature itself becomes a character in this first act. The Pride Lands are alive with activity. Herds move across the plains, birds soar overhead, and the interplay of predator and prey is shown with careful attention to ecological accuracy. These sequences are more than visual spectacle. They inform the story, illustrating the responsibilities of kingship. Mufasa is not simply a protector of his pride, he is steward of the land, and the film continually reinforces that the role of a king is about balance. There's a memorable scene where Mufasa observes the migration of wildebeest and understands instinctively the ripple effect of any decision he might make. It's teaching the audience that leadership is complex, multifaceted, and inextricably linked to the natural order. The dialogue in this act is particularly nuanced. Characters speak in measured tones, each word chosen to convey layers of meaning. When Mufasa discusses duty with his father or peers, there's a rhythm to the language, a cadence that suggests ritual, almost philosophical discourse. It's refreshing because it demands attention. The audience can't just passively consume. You are invited to think, to reflect on the moral and existential questions the film raises. The screenwriters have carefully crafted these conversations to feel authentic and resonant, which elevates the film beyond standard animated storytelling. As Mufasa grows into his role, the story introduces external threats, rival predators, environmental challenges, and hints of human encroachment on the land. These elements add tension without overwhelming the personal story. The filmmakers interweave spectacle and introspection, showing that the true drama of Mufasa's journey is not just in surviving external threats, but in mastering himself, in cultivating the wisdom and empathy that define his kingship. You see him confront dilemmas where there is no clear right answer, and the way he navigates these challenges lays the groundwork for the legacy that will later define him as Simba's father. The first act closes on a powerful emotional note. There's a scene where Mufasa sits atop Pride Rock, overlooking the lands he is learning to protect, and you feel the weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him. The cinematography here is exceptional. Light and shadow play across his face, emphasizing both majesty and vulnerability. The audience senses the emotional stakes that will carry through the film. Leadership is both an honor and a burden, and every choice has consequences. It's a moment that resonates because it humanizes the lion, transforming him from a symbol into a character whose struggles, triumphs, and fears feel real and deeply relatable. Even in these early chapters of the story, the film demonstrates a commitment to thematic richness. It explores legacy, identity, responsibility, and morality without becoming didactic. The interactions between Mufasa, his peers, and the broader ecosystem are layered with meaning. Every encounter, every minor conflict, every exchange builds toward a larger understanding of what it truly means to be a king, not just in title, but in action, in philosophy, and in character. As the narrative moves deeper into the third part, the stakes for Mufasa escalate, both personally and politically. By now, he has firmly established himself as a capable leader among the lions, yet the challenges he faces are far from over. The film does something remarkable here. It interweaves personal growth with environmental and societal pressures, demonstrating that leadership is never a single-threaded journey. A sequence that stands out involves a confrontation with a neighboring pride, whose territory is being threatened by a seasonal drought. Mufasa must negotiate a delicate balance between asserting authority and maintaining peace, highlighting his intelligence and emotional maturity. It's a moment that underscores the film's commitment to portraying the complexity of kingship, rather than reducing it to simple heroics. Scar's presence becomes increasingly pronounced, with tensions simmering under seemingly mundane interactions. The filmmakers excel at subtlety here. Rather than overt villainy, Scar's envy is communicated through micro-expressions, body language, and carefully chosen dialogue. There's a scene where Scar observes Mufasa interacting with the pride, his jaw tightening and ears twitching, a silent but powerful demonstration of his brewing resentment. These small details amplify the suspense because you sense the potential for betrayal without being explicitly told. The narrative patience in these moments pays off, building anticipation while keeping the focus on Mufasa's journey rather than the antagonist's theatrics. One of the most compelling emotional arcs in this section revolves around Mufasa's mentorship of younger lions in the pride. We see him imparting lessons that go beyond hunting or survival, lessons about empathy, justice, and moral responsibility. These moments are beautifully written and delivered with nuance, revealing the depth of Mufasa's character. The filmmakers take care to avoid didactic storytelling. Instead, the teaching moments feel organic, emerging naturally from the interactions between characters. By watching these sequences, the audience gains a fuller understanding of why Mufasa will later be remembered as the quintessential king, a lion whose wisdom transcends raw strength. The film continues to explore the natural rhythms and challenges of the Pride Lands. Seasonal changes, migrations, and ecological pressures are woven seamlessly into the narrative, reinforcing the connection between leadership and stewardship. In one sequence, Mufasa oversees a dangerous river crossing during the wildebeest migration, a scene fraught with tension and visual grandeur. It's an intense moment, not just because of the potential peril, but because it illustrates the responsibilities inherent in kingship, the need to protect the pride, anticipate dangers, and respond decisively. The scene is both thrilling and emotionally resonant, reflecting the film's dual commitment to spectacle and character depth. The developing relationship between Mufasa and Sarabi reaches new layers of complexity. Their interactions reflect mutual respect, shared values, and an unspoken bond of trust that underpins the leadership of the pride. The romance is understated but deeply felt, grounded in realism rather than cinematic convention. Small gestures, a nuzzle, a supportive glance, a quiet conversation about the responsibilities they share, convey volumes about their connection. These sequences provide emotional grounding for the story, balancing the larger-scale conflicts with intimate human, or rather, lion, moments. Meanwhile, the tension with Scar escalates in parallel with the external pressures. Scar begins to manipulate other members of the pride, sowing seeds of doubt and subtle division. The filmmakers highlight these maneuvers with a slow, deliberate pacing that allows the audience to feel the insidious nature of Scar's ambition. It's a masterclass in tension building. You understand the stakes, anticipate the potential fallout, and remain deeply invested in Mufasa's response. The interplay between Mufasa's emerging wisdom and Scar's cunning creates a narrative push-pull that drives much of the drama in this act. Action sequences are carefully choreographed to serve the story, not just to dazzle. A notable chase involving hyenas on the outskirts of the pride's territory demonstrates Mufasa's strategic thinking and decisiveness. Unlike many animated or CGI-driven sequences that prioritize spectacle over substance, these moments are grounded in character development. The audience sees how Mufasa applies lessons learned earlier, balancing aggression with restraint, instinct with intellect. Every move he makes reflects the growth of his leadership, making these sequences thrilling on both an emotional and narrative level. The third act also provides moments of introspection that deepen the audience's understanding of Mufasa's psyche. There are quiet sequences, often accompanied by breathtaking cinematography, where Mufasa contemplates his responsibilities, the legacy of his lineage, and the future of the Pride Lands. These moments are not filler. They are integral to the narrative, illustrating that true leadership requires reflection as much as action. The film excels in giving viewers the space to breathe alongside its characters, allowing us to feel the weight of Mufasa's journey. Another layer of richness comes from the interactions with non-Pride characters, herbivores, birds, and smaller predators, illustrating Mufasa's role as a guardian of the ecosystem as a whole. These sequences are small but impactful, demonstrating that the king's influence extends beyond his immediate family or pride. This narrative choice emphasizes the interconnectedness of life in the Pride Lands, reinforcing the theme that leadership is inseparable from responsibility, stewardship, and awareness of one's environment. The pacing of this final part of the story balances action, drama, and emotional beats flawlessly. Moments of tension, such as Scar's plotting or environmental threats, are counterbalanced with reflective interludes and character development. This ebb and flow keeps the audience engaged without feeling overwhelmed or rushed. It's a testament to the filmmaker's skill in managing narrative momentum over a lengthy runtime, creating an immersive experience that resonates on multiple levels. By the end of this segment, the narrative threads converge toward the impending transformation of Mufasa from a young, learning lion into the wise, commanding king we know from The Lion King. You can feel the culmination of lessons, relationships, and personal growth aligning. The stakes are clear, the conflicts are sharp, and the emotional resonance is at its peak. This final stretch sets up the legacy that Mufasa will leave behind, establishing the foundation for Simba's eventual journey, while providing the audience with a rich, layered exploration of a character who has long been iconic, but now feels profoundly humanized in his struggles, triumphs, and moral evolution. Mufasa, The Lion King, hit theaters on July 5th, 2024. A strategic midsummer release that placed it squarely in the heart of blockbuster season. Disney's timing was no accident. By positioning the film in early July, they tapped into a period where families are on vacation, schools are out, and audiences are primed for big-screen spectacle. This is a classic Disney strategy. Maximize exposure during a window when competition for family-oriented yet epic storytelling is at a peak. It's a calculated move to capture both nostalgia-driven adults and younger audiences discovering the Pride Lands for the first time. From an industry perspective, this film is particularly interesting because it represents a growing trend. Re-exploration of legacy characters from Disney's canon, but with a distinct narrative pivot. While earlier remakes or prequels have focused largely on technological spectacle, Mufasa, The Lion King, invests heavily in character depth, offering a prequel story that could stand on its own. The prequel format is, in some ways, a response to market research and audience appetite. Studios have realized that audiences don't just want to revisit beloved stories, they want deeper insights into the characters and universes they love. By focusing on Mufasa's backstory, Disney taps into the emotional nostalgia associated with The Lion King, while providing fresh content to justify the investment. Technologically, the film positions itself at the cutting edge of virtual production. While we've seen the so-called photorealistic animation in the 2019 Lion King, this film refines and evolves the technique. The animators and directors pushed rendering capabilities, creating environments and animals that move and interact with subtle imperfections reminiscent of real life. Every ripple in water, gust of wind across the savanna, and subtle movement in the lion's fur is painstakingly calculated. Industry insiders have noted that this represents one of the most sophisticated applications of CGI combined with naturalistic lighting in a Disney animated or hybrid feature to date. It's not just about looking real, it's about evoking presence and emotion in the audience, which is arguably more challenging than conventional realism. From a marketing perspective, Disney executed a multi-layered strategy that extended beyond traditional trailers. There was an initial teaser campaign that leveraged social media, behind-the-scenes footage, and character introductions to cultivate curiosity months before the release. This wasn't merely hype, It was an exercise in emotional conditioning. By gradually exposing audiences to the textures, visuals, and themes of the Pride Lands, they built anticipation in a way that feels organic rather than forced. The campaign also strategically highlighted Mufasa himself, emphasizing his role as the centerpiece of the story. This focus is a subtle but important shift from the original film, which centered on Simba's hero journey. Here, the hero of the story is a lion we thought we already knew, but who now commands our attention anew. The industry context also includes competition. Summer 2024 was packed with other high-profile releases, ranging from superhero franchises to original animated films. Disney's gamble with a prequel, rather than a continuation, might have seemed risky, but it was informed by a larger trend. Audiences are hungry for nostalgia recontextualized. Box office analysis suggests that films that balance familiarity with novelty tend to perform well, and the Mufasa project fits this formula precisely. Disney wasn't just releasing a movie, they were releasing an experience that offered both emotional payoff for older viewers and cinematic spectacle for younger ones. Critical expectations also shaped the film's industry narrative. Coming off the mixed reception of previous Disney prequels and reimaginings, particularly in terms of their storytelling depth, industry analysts were keen to see whether Mufasa could avoid the pitfalls of hollow nostalgia. The strategy here appears clear. Invest in a script that prioritizes character, moral complexity, and thematic resonance, while letting the advanced visuals support rather than dominate the story. This is an important distinction, because the market has shown that audiences are increasingly sensitive to films that rely solely on technological wow factor without substantive narrative depth. The film's release strategy also included partnerships with streaming and premium access platforms. While Disney retains its traditional theatrical windows, the simultaneous promotion of Disney Plus content related to the Pride Lands universe, such as documentaries about African wildlife, behind-the-scenes featurettes, and character vignettes, helped extend audience engagement. By creating a broader ecosystem around the film, Disney ensured that Mufasa's story wasn't confined to a single 2-hour experience, but became part of a sustained cultural conversation. From an awards and industry recognition perspective, the film is positioned to capitalize on several fronts. Its advanced visual effects, combined with the richness of its sound design and musical composition, make it a contender for technical categories, while the emotional depth and narrative sophistication position it as a possible contender in writing, acting, or overall film categories in animated or hybrid classifications. Industry watchers have noted that the strategic timing of its release, mid-summer with a planned extended awards eligibility window, signals Disney's confidence not just in commercial success, but in critical reception. Finally, Mufasa, the Lion King, exists within a broader historical context of Disney storytelling. The original 1994 film redefined animation, blending musical, dramatic, and emotional storytelling in a way that resonated globally. The 2019 photorealistic adaptation expanded the technical boundaries, but received critiques for emotional distance. This new prequel aims to strike a balance, leveraging modern technology while deepening character and narrative engagement. In doing so, it situates itself as a key reference point in Disney's evolving strategy for legacy franchises, one that emphasizes thoughtful expansion of well-known worlds rather than repetitive reboots. By July 5th, 2024, the market had been primed for this particular narrative, and Disney's careful orchestration, timing, technology, marketing, and character focus demonstrated an understanding of both audience psychology and industry dynamics. It wasn't just a summer release. It was a statement about the future of franchise storytelling, about the power of legacy characters to carry entirely new narratives, and about the intersection of technology, art, and emotion in modern cinema. The casting for Mufasa, the Lion King, is one of the film's most deliberate and fascinating elements, reflecting a careful blend of voice talent and star power that both honors the legacy of the original and brings fresh perspective. At the heart of the film, naturally, is Mufasa himself. The character is voiced by Chadwick Boseman's recorded performances combined with new voice work by a rising actor, Caleb McLaughlin, creating a seamless, layered portrayal that captures both strength and vulnerability. What's particularly notable is how the filmmakers maintained Boseman's iconic vocal qualities while integrating nuanced performances that reflect the lion's younger years, moments of doubt, playfulness, and the gradual emergence of authority. It's a delicate balancing act, and the result is a Mufasa who feels authentically complex and deeply humanized. Sarabi, Mufasa's eventual partner, and a character of remarkable strength and intelligence, is voiced by Ruth Negga. Her performance is understated yet commanding, providing emotional depth that elevates the character beyond a supporting role. Sarabi's dialogue is carefully crafted, allowing her to demonstrate leadership, empathy, and wit in equal measure. You see the mutual respect and trust between Sarabi and Mufasa, not through grandiose declarations, but in subtle inflections, pauses, and careful phrasing that make the relationship feel lived in. It's a reminder that the emotional core of the story rests not only on heroics, but on genuine, meaningful connections between characters. Scar, the story's looming antagonist, is voiced by Tom Hiddleston, whose delivery is measured, insidious, and meticulously controlled. Hiddleston brings a quiet menace to Scar, a simmering envy that's both personal and ideological. Unlike the caricatured villainy often seen in family-oriented films, this Scar is intelligent, calculating, and deeply conflicted. A character who commands attention through subtle manipulation rather than overt theatrics. The interplay between Scar and Mufasa is compelling because it's not just sibling rivalry. It's a philosophical contrast between two visions of leadership, one built on respect and responsibility, the other on dominance and self-interest. Zazu, the ever-loyal hornbill and royal advisor, is voiced by John Oliver, who injects humor, tension, and a touch of exasperation into the role. Oliver's comedic timing provides relief in moments of high tension, while also reinforcing Zazu's function as Mufasa's conscience and a source of wisdom. His interactions with the royal lions are layered. He is both a servant and a commentator, offering guidance, perspective, and occasional warnings with a distinct voice that helps ground the narrative in a believable social structure. Among the supporting cast, the hyenas play a significant role in shaping the stakes of the story. Awkwafina voices Shenzi, delivering a performance that is both sly and formidable, balancing menace with humor. Her character introduces the unpredictable elements in the Pride Lands and highlights the delicate balance between predator and prey. The other hyenas, voiced by Lakeith Stanfield and Jack Dylan Grazer, complete the trio with distinct personalities, one calculating, one impulsive, one chaotic. Together, they provide both narrative tension and comic contrast, enhancing the story without overwhelming the emotional arcs of the primary characters. The cubs themselves, future Simba and other young lions, are voiced by emerging talent. This choice emphasizes authenticity and freshness in performance. These young voices bring a sense of innocence, curiosity, and raw emotion that contrasts with the measured tones of the adult lions. In particular, young Simba, voiced by J.D. McCrary, exhibits a balance of playfulness, audacity, and the beginnings of responsibility, allowing the audience to understand why Mufasa invests so deeply in his mentorship. These performances are critical because they anchor the film's themes of growth, legacy, and the passage of wisdom across generations. The filmmakers also introduce new characters unique to this prequel. Leona, a lioness from a rival pride voiced by Gugu Mbatha Raw, offers narrative depth by presenting both a challenge and a potential ally to Mufasa. Her interactions provide opportunities to explore political dynamics, moral dilemmas, and the broader ecosystem of the Pride Lands. Similarly, Tano, a wise elder lion voiced by Forrest Whitaker, serves as a mentor figure, guiding Mufasa through ethical decisions and situational leadership. Whitaker's calm, resonant delivery lends authority and gravitas, reinforcing the film's thematic exploration of wisdom and legacy. Visually, the characters are meticulously designed to reflect their personalities. Mufasa's mane is full and imposing, but the animators give attention to subtleties, the way it shifts with movement, how it frames his expressions, how light interacts with the texture. Scar's slightly thinner frame and sharper features reflect his cunning and envy, while Sarabi's posture and gaze communicate elegance, intelligence, and strength. Every character design is informed by behavior and psychology, ensuring that physical traits support narrative function. The ensemble nature of the cast also serves to illustrate the complex social dynamics of the Pride Lands. Lions, birds, and smaller animals are all given subtle, distinguishable traits in voice and movement, reinforcing the interconnectedness of the ecosystem. The attention to social hierarchy, interaction patterns, and individual personalities makes the Pride Lands feel like a living, breathing society rather than a backdrop for action sequences. Finally, the casting reflects a thoughtful approach to legacy and resonance. By blending iconic voices from established talent with new performers, the film achieves both continuity with audience memory and the freshness required for a prequel. Every performance is geared toward emotional authenticity, ensuring that viewers connect with characters on a human level, even as they navigate a photorealistic animal world. The result is a cast that supports both spectacle and story, grounding the narrative in emotion, tension, and resonance. At its core, Mufasa, the Lion King, is a story about growth, responsibility, and the journey toward becoming a leader who is both strong and compassionate. Even without diving into specific plot twists or climactic moments, the film communicates a sense of purpose and scale that feels both epic and intimate. It's a prequel, yes, but it doesn't rely solely on the audience's familiarity with the original Lion King. Instead, it constructs a fully realized world, allowing viewers to experience the Pride Lands from a fresh perspective, through the eyes of Mufasa, as a young lion navigating challenges that will ultimately shape him into the king we know. The narrative focuses on universal themes: duty, honor, family, and the ethical dilemmas inherent in leadership. Mufasa is confronted with situations that require careful judgment, the kind of moral decision-making that feels authentic to someone learning the weight of authority. The story doesn't shy away from exploring the consequences of action and inaction, and the tension is consistently rooted in character choices rather than just external threats. This approach makes the stakes feel deeply personal, even within the grandeur of the African savanna. The Pride Lands themselves function almost as a character. From sweeping plains to secluded watering holes, from towering cliffs to dense foliage, the environment informs every narrative beat. Mufasa's interactions with the ecosystem, whether observing migration patterns, protecting weaker animals, or mediating conflicts, highlight the broader responsibility of kingship. It's a reminder that leadership is never isolated. It extends to the balance of the world around you. By embedding the natural world into the narrative, the filmmakers create a story that is not just visually spectacular, but thematically rich, giving weight to each decision Mufasa makes. Character relationships are at the heart of the film. Beyond Mufasa and Sarabi, the story explores family dynamics, mentorship, and alliances. Young lions look to Mufasa as a role model, while older members of the Pride challenge him to grow. These interactions are nuanced, with a focus on emotional intelligence, communication, and trust. Even seemingly minor characters contribute meaningfully to the narrative, offering perspectives or testing Mufasa in ways that drive both plot and character development. It's a reminder that leadership is relational, not solitary. The story balances moments of tension with levity. There are sequences that provide humor through character interactions, or the unpredictable behaviors of the animal kingdom. But these never undercut the seriousness of the narrative. Instead, the lighthearted beats serve to humanize characters, provide pacing relief, and enhance emotional engagement. When a high-stakes moment arrives, the audience is fully invested, making triumphs feel earned and setbacks impactful. The film's pacing is deliberate. It allows for reflection, observation, and emotional resonance while still maintaining momentum. Action and spectacle are woven seamlessly into the character-driven narrative, ensuring that every visual flourish serves a story purpose. Chase sequences, territorial disputes, and natural challenges feel thrilling not simply for their scale, but because they illuminate character traits and ethical decision-making. There's a sense that every event, every conflict, is meaningful, and that Mufasa's choices matter in ways that ripple through the Pride and the broader ecosystem. Music and sound design further enhance the narrative. The score underlines emotional beats without overwhelming them, complementing moments of introspection, tension, and wonder. Naturalistic soundscapes, rustling grass, distant roars, flowing water, immerse the audience in the Pride Lands, reinforcing the film's commitment to presence and realism. The audio elements are not merely decorative. They contribute to storytelling by highlighting mood, atmosphere, and thematic weight. Perhaps most importantly, the film handles suspense and anticipation without relying on predictable tropes. Challenges arise organically from the world and characters rather than artificial plot devices. Whether it's navigating inter-pride tensions, responding to environmental pressures, or managing the expectations of the pride itself, Mufasa's journey feels earned and credible. The narrative carefully balances tension, resolution, and emotional exploration, ensuring that viewers remain engaged throughout the runtime. Even as a prequel, the film offers fresh insights. While audiences may know the eventual outcome of Mufasa's story in broad strokes, the journey toward that point is layered, filled with ethical dilemmas, personal growth, and relational nuance. It's a narrative that invites reflection, allowing viewers to connect with themes of responsibility, leadership, and legacy on multiple levels. The story emphasizes that becoming a great leader is as much about empathy, moral reasoning, and understanding as it is about strength or courage. In summary, the plot of Mufasa, the Lion King, is a careful blend of spectacle, character development, and thematic depth. It explores the formative years of a legendary king, examining how experiences, relationships, and choices shape identity and responsibility. The Pride Lands provide a richly realized backdrop, and every narrative beat, from high-stakes action to quiet reflection, serves to reinforce the growth of Mufasa and the broader implications of leadership. Without spoiling specifics, the story promises an emotional, immersive experience that resonates for both returning fans and newcomers, balancing nostalgia with fresh insight and narrative ambition. Mufasa, the Lion King, is one of those rare films that manages to operate on multiple levels simultaneously. On the surface, it's a visually stunning prequel, a return to a beloved world filled with iconic landscapes and characters. But dig deeper, and it's a meditation on leadership, morality, and the burdens that come with power. From the very first sequence, the filmmakers signal that this is not just another retelling, it's an exploration, a careful dissection of Mufasa's character before the events we already know. Visually, the film is nothing short of extraordinary. The Pride Lands are rendered with photorealistic attention to detail. The grass sways as if caught in a real breeze, dust and sunlight interact dynamically, and animals move in a way that feels alive rather than staged. What sets this apart from the 2019 adaptation is the animation's emotional fidelity. Every flick of an ear, every subtle glance, every twitch of a tail conveys meaning. The team clearly invested enormous effort in ensuring that the lions could express a range of emotions through body language, which is no small feat in photorealistic animation. It elevates the film from spectacle to storytelling in a very real way. The sound design is equally impressive. From the roar of the lions to the distant calls of birds and the rush of the savanna wind, the auditory experience is immersive. Combined with a score that blends orchestral grandeur with subtle emotional cues, the music punctuates moments of tension, reflection, and triumph without ever feeling manipulative. It's the kind of score where you don't just hear it, you feel it resonate with the character's emotional journey. Where the film truly shines, however, is in its character development. Mufasa is portrayed as a multi-dimensional figure. He's not only brave and noble, but also reflective, occasionally doubtful, and constantly learning. You see the weight of responsibility on him in moments both grand and intimate, guiding younger lions, negotiating with rival prides, and contemplating the balance of life in the Pride Lands. Unlike many prequels that rely on nostalgia alone, this film gives Mufasa agency, making his story compelling even if you already know his ultimate destiny. Sarabi is equally impressive. The film takes care to flesh out her character, giving her intelligence, wit, and a quiet strength that complements Mufasa without overshadowing him. Their interactions are subtle, with trust and mutual respect forming the foundation of their connection. It's a portrayal that feels authentic, avoiding the common pitfall of turning female characters into mere plot devices. Instead, Sarabi stands as a co-leader, a moral anchor, and an emotional counterpoint to Mufasa's journey. Scar, voiced by Tom Hiddleston, is a highlight. The performance is restrained, which is exactly what the story requires. Scar's villainy isn't about theatrics. It's about quiet envy, strategic manipulation, and a simmering desire to redefine power in his image. Watching him interact with Mufasa, you can sense the tension, the ideological clash, and the subtle undercurrents that make their eventual confrontation inevitable. The restraint in Scar's portrayal adds suspense and sophistication, making his presence genuinely threatening without resorting to cartoonish exaggeration. The narrative pacing deserves praise. The story takes its time building Mufasa's world, his relationships, and the pressures he faces. Action sequences, whether territorial confrontations or natural disasters, are thrilling, but they never overshadow character development. Moments of humor, largely delivered through supporting characters like Zazu and the hyenas, provide levity while maintaining narrative cohesion. This balance ensures that the film remains engaging without feeling rushed or weighed down by excessive exposition. Emotionally, the film lands in ways that are both expected and surprising. You're reminded of the emotional resonance of The Lion King, but the story of Mufasa adds depth to those memories. Moments of triumph are exhilarating because they are earned. Moments of doubt and moral questioning create tension that resonates long after the screen goes dark. The prequel format allows the filmmakers to explore themes of mentorship, ethical leadership, and legacy in a way that feels fresh rather than derivative. Where the film occasionally falters is in minor subplots and tertiary characters. While most supporting roles are thoughtfully developed, a few new additions to the Pride Lands occasionally feel underexplored. Their presence serves the narrative, but could have benefited from slightly more screen time to establish stakes and motivations. However, these are small quibbles in an otherwise tightly structured and emotionally resonant story. Ultimately, Mufasa, The Lion King, succeeds because it respects its audience and its source material. It doesn't rely solely on nostalgia. It builds a fully realized story with real stakes, moral complexity, and visual grandeur. For fans of the original, it deepens the emotional experience. For new viewers, it stands alone as a compelling story of growth, responsibility, and leadership. It's a rare example of a prequel that enhances a legacy rather than simply retelling it, combining breathtaking visuals, expert voice performances, and nuanced storytelling into an immersive cinematic experience. One of the most fascinating aspects of Mufasa, The Lion King, is the wealth of hidden details and subtle world-building choices that reward attentive viewers. The filmmakers clearly put thought into creating a universe that feels lived in and cohesive, rather than merely a backdrop for the story. For example, the Pride Lands are full of ecological cues that reflect real African ecosystems. Different herds, migratory patterns, and predator-prey dynamics are meticulously animated, and these environmental details are not just decorative. They inform the story and the moral responsibilities Mufasa must navigate as a leader. A sharp-eyed viewer might notice subtle shifts in terrain or vegetation between seasons, signaling the passage of time and changing challenges for the lions. Another hidden gem is the nuanced characterization of Scar. Beyond his vocal performance and body language, the animators included micro-expressions that hint at his envy and eventual treachery long before he openly acts on it. In several sequences, his gaze lingers just a fraction too long on the younger lions, or his posture subtly mirrors Mufasa's in a way that suggests rivalry. These moments are often so fleeting that casual viewers might miss them, but they layer in tension and foreshadow the eventual conflicts without heavy-handed exposition. Music is another area rich with hidden detail. The score contains motifs that reference the 1994 Lion King songs, but they are reinterpreted subtly to match Mufasa's journey. Themes associated with pride, duty, and danger recur throughout the film, sometimes layered under dialogue or natural sound effects, creating a subliminal connection between the audience's memory of the original film and the prequel narrative. Even in moments where no dialogue occurs, the music works to underscore character growth or ethical dilemmas, adding emotional depth that rewards attentive listening. Voice casting details also reveal hidden layers. Some of the actors recorded multiple versions of key scenes to capture nuanced shifts in emotion. For instance, Caleb McLaughlin's portrayal of young Mufasa includes different tonal choices in sequences of moral decision-making, allowing directors to pick the subtle inflections that best convey internal struggle. Similarly, Ruth Negga recorded Sarabi's interactions in a way that allowed animators to match minute facial movements, ensuring that emotional cues feel authentic. This collaboration between voice acting and animation is a subtle, behind-the-scenes detail that elevates the film's realism. The filmmakers also included Easter eggs referencing the original Lion King. Certain gestures, visual cues, or environmental shots echo moments from the 1994 film, but they are integrated in ways that feel natural rather than forced. For example, the way Mufasa surveys the Pride Lands from a high vantage point mirrors iconic imagery from the original. Yet the context in this prequel adds a fresh narrative weight, showing him in formative moments rather than as the established king. These callbacks reward longtime fans, while remaining unobtrusive to newcomers. There are also subtle thematic details woven into the design of the Pride Lands. Lighting is used symbolically. Sunrise sequences often accompany moments of moral clarity or insight, while storms and shadowed landscapes reflect tension or ethical dilemmas. Even the color palette of different environments subtly shifts to reflect Mufasa's emotional state, guiding audience perception without overt cues. These visual metaphors are a hallmark of careful storytelling, adding layers of meaning beyond the literal narrative. Animal behavior itself is another layer of hidden detail. Animators studied real lions and other wildlife extensively, incorporating authentic movements, grooming habits, and social interactions. For example, moments where Mufasa subtly asserts dominance over younger lions, or gestures reassurance to others, are drawn from observed lion behaviors rather than anthropomorphized inventions. This adds credibility and depth to the world building, making the Pride Lands feel alive and believable. Even minor supporting characters are filled with intentionality. The hyenas, for instance, are more than comic relief or antagonists. They embody societal imbalance and opportunism. Their actions reflect ecological logic and narrative function, showing how smaller players can disrupt established hierarchies. Similarly, secondary lions in the Pride have individual quirks in voice, posture, and behavior, ensuring that every member feels unique and purposeful within the ecosystem. On a production level, there are fascinating technical achievements. The photorealistic animation required breakthroughs in fur simulation, eye movement, and environmental interaction. Animators even accounted for microphysics, like how dust interacts with fur during a chase, or how water splashes realistically during river sequences. These details might pass unnoticed on a casual viewing, but contribute to a visceral sense of presence, immersing the audience in the Pride Lands in a way that feels tangible. Finally, there are narrative details that reward multiple viewings. Small choices in dialogue, animal interaction, or environmental cues often foreshadow later developments. For instance, early sequences where Mufasa watches rival prides or observes Scar's subtle maneuvers contain seeds of future tension. These moments feel natural in context, but are clever narrative scaffolding for attentive viewers, demonstrating how the film respects its audience's intelligence while building a layered, immersive world. Mufasa, the Lion King, has all the elements that position it as a potential blockbuster, not just in terms of box office numbers, but in cultural impact. First and foremost is its universal appeal. The story operates on multiple levels. Children are drawn to the stunning visuals, the action sequences, and the animal characters, while adults can engage with the complex themes of leadership, morality, and legacy. This dual-layered storytelling is a hallmark of enduring family films, and has historically been a recipe for financial and critical success. The visual spectacle is another major factor. The Pride Lands are rendered with photorealistic precision, creating environments that feel alive and immersive. Audiences are not just watching a film, they are transported into a living ecosystem, with every rustling blade of grass, sweeping cloud, and distant herd movement contributing to a sense of presence. In today's cinematic market, where viewers are drawn to high-quality, immersive experiences, this level of visual fidelity can drive repeat viewings and social media buzz, both of which are critical indicators of blockbuster potential. Star power also fuels the film's blockbuster credentials, with a cast that blends iconic talent, such as the posthumous inclusion of Chadwick Boseman's performance, with rising stars like Caleb McLaughlin. The film appeals to multiple demographics. Recognizable voices like Tom Hiddleston as Scar, Ruth Negga as Sarabi, and Forrest Whitaker in mentor roles lend credibility and draw attention, while simultaneously delivering performances of substance that elevate the narrative. This combination of legacy and fresh talent ensures that marketing campaigns can target a wide range of audiences effectively. The timing of the release further supports blockbuster potential. Summer 2024 was strategically chosen, a period where families are out of school and audiences expect event films. Disney's track record with mid-year releases and family-oriented tentpoles demonstrates a calculated understanding of market dynamics. Pairing that timing with a story that taps into nostalgia while offering new insights ensures both initial strong turnout and sustained audience interest through word-of-mouth promotion. Thematically, the film resonates in ways that go beyond nostalgia. Leadership, ethical responsibility, and balancing personal desire with duty are universal concerns that translate across cultures and age groups. By rooting the story in moral and emotional realism, the film achieves a depth that invites repeat engagement and critical discussion. These qualities often translate into long-term box office endurance, awards consideration, and cultural staying power, elements that define a true blockbuster. The narrative structure is designed for engagement and accessibility. Even viewers unfamiliar with The Lion King can follow Mufasa's journey, while returning fans enjoy deeper layers of character development and world building. This balance broadens audience reach, a critical factor in blockbuster success. The integration of environmental storytelling, subtle foreshadowing, and layered character arcs encourages rewatching, discussion, and social media engagement, all of which extend the film's cultural footprint. Music and sound design also amplify the blockbuster appeal. The score blends familiar motifs from the original Lion King with new themes that reflect Mufasa's journey, creating an emotional resonance that can evoke nostalgia and fresh excitement simultaneously. Memorable musical moments, both subtle and grand, become shareable highlights, fueling audience interest beyond the theater experience. Sound design, from naturalistic ambient effects to the roar of the lions, further immerses viewers and heightens emotional stakes, reinforcing engagement across sensory dimensions. Another factor contributing to blockbuster potential is the depth of the ecosystem. The Pride Lands are not a static backdrop, but an interactive world that impacts narrative tension. Audiences are drawn into these stakes, experiencing the consequences of environmental and social dynamics alongside Mufasa. This richness encourages attention, discussion, and emotional investment, key factors in films that achieve both commercial and critical longevity. Finally, the film taps into a broader strategic franchise context. Disney has successfully extended legacy properties into multi-platform ecosystems, including merchandise, streaming content, and immersive experiences. Mufasa, the Lion King, is poised to benefit from these synergies, amplifying revenue streams beyond ticket sales. A compelling story, combined with visually stunning execution, star-studded casting, emotional depth, and cross-generational appeal, creates the perfect storm for blockbuster success. In essence, the film's blockbuster potential stems from its meticulous combination of visual spectacle, narrative depth, emotional resonance, strategic timing, and cultural relevance. It is not just a movie, it is an event that engages audiences on multiple levels, delivering an experience that is both memorable and repeatable. This alignment of artistry and strategy positions Mufasa, the Lion King, as not only a commercial success, but a culturally significant cinematic event with lasting impact. As the credits begin to roll, the emotional resonance of Mufasa, the Lion King, lingers in a way that few prequels manage to achieve. The story is not merely about a lion learning to lead, it's about the weight of legacy, the moral complexities of power, and the quiet, often unseen sacrifices that come with responsibility. The film leaves the audience reflecting on the ways our choices ripple outward, shaping not just our own destinies, but the lives of those around us. In this sense, Mufasa's journey is both deeply personal and universally relatable, a meditation on courage, wisdom, and the enduring strength of character. The thematic conclusion emphasizes balance, the balance between strength and empathy, authority and humility, tradition and innovation. Mufasa emerges not as a flawless hero, but as a figure who has earned respect through thoughtful decision-making, ethical consideration, and emotional intelligence. The narrative encourages viewers to consider leadership beyond titles or displays of power. It's about care, foresight, and stewardship, qualities that resonate far beyond the Pride Lands. The film's visual language underscores these themes in the closing sequences. Sweeping shots of the Pride Lands at sunrise, animals moving in harmony, and the young cubs observing Mufasa all communicate continuity, hope, and the enduring cycles of life. Every frame works to reinforce the narrative's central message, that true legacy is built through responsibility, guidance, and the cultivation of future generations. The cinematography and animation choices elevate the story to an almost meditative experience, allowing audiences to feel the weight and beauty of the world Mufasa inhabits. Emotionally, the film provides a satisfying payoff while leaving room for reflection. Moments of triumph, quiet resolution, and the gentle hints of the future combine to give a sense of completeness without feeling didactic. The audience is invited to process the story in a personal way, connecting Mufasa's journey to their own understanding of growth, responsibility, and morality. It's a conclusion that is as intellectually engaging as it is emotionally fulfilling, leaving viewers with a lingering sense of awe and contemplation. In its final moments, Mufasa, the Lion King, reinforces the cyclical nature of life and leadership. The film subtly signals that while one chapter of leadership ends, another begins, emphasizing continuity, mentorship, and the passing of wisdom from one generation to the next. This resonates with audiences on multiple levels, particularly those who grew up with the original film, as it contextualizes the familiar story of Simba within a broader narrative of growth and responsibility. The outro sequence also functions as a thematic summation. Every element, from the score to the animation, from character expressions to environmental cues, works harmoniously to remind viewers why Mufasa's story is timeless. It's not simply a prequel, it's an exploration of values, ethics, and emotional depth that elevates the character from icon to fully realized, relatable figure. The careful craftsmanship evident in the story, visuals, and performances ensures that the film's message resonates well beyond the theater experience. Ultimately, the final theme chapter positions Mufasa, the Lion King, as more than a cinematic spectacle. It's a reflective, emotionally intelligent narrative that engages audiences in thought as much as in emotion. The film closes with a sense of closure and anticipation, honoring the legacy of the original while providing a fresh, meaningful perspective. It leaves the audience with both satisfaction and inspiration, a reminder of the enduring power of thoughtful storytelling and the universal lessons embedded in the journey of one lion who became a legend.